It's the right kind of buyer. The price keeps getting higher. The banks are run by liars. It's the right kind of buyer for me. Strong baby tender. What's up, guys? Total Control 871. Yes, indeed. The price of everything keeps getting higher. Today's topic is about gentrification, and I am going to do my absolute best to go as easy as I can on the Jewish oligarchy. I know a lot of you guys probably have all kinds of thoughts about me. But anyway, so gentrification, for those of you who don't know what it is when a demographic will turn another demograpic's culture. I don't know if culture appropriation. No, it's not culture appropriation. It's like a type of a culture terraforming. Let me put it to you like this, rather than try and waste a lot of time explaining it. I found myself inside of the condo of a man who earned a lot of money. There's a whole backstory to it, another time. Anyway, so he goes to, it's like a 3-level condo, and he goes to tell me where the bathroom is. And I say, oh, I know, it's on the 3rd floor on the left, right? And he goes, yeah, how'd you know? And I kind of said to him, well, it just looks like it would be there, you know, be in that location. I really didn't have the heart, because he was very, very proud of his condo, you know. I didn't have the heart to tell him that your condo that you paid a great deal of money for, there are people in Atlantic City who are living in it for free. I believe it was called 6-bedroom or Back Merlin. It's a project, you know. The designer, the architecture, whatever architecture firm designed it, apparently they sold it to, don't even get me lying as to, you know, how building designs are sold or the proprietary nature of them. I really don't know. All I know is that this particular building design was being used as a ghetto project in Atlantic City, and he was living in it after having paid a phenomenal amount of money. And my cousins, she lived in it for a very long time, 20-some years or longer, and that's how I knew where the bathroom was. And she paid like next to no rent whatsoever, you know, very little rent, because she has a whole bunch of children. And here he is, you know, shelling out phenomenal amounts of money. Now, of course, the building was in a vastly different part of the county of New Jersey, in a very vastly different neighborhood where there were other wealthy, affluent people. And like I say, I have no idea how building designs got shopped around, hustled around, but he found himself purchasing, you know, something that, you know, some of the most ghetto and quite often violent urban black people were living in for either free or next to free. So it could be said that that's a type of gentrification. You know, it really begs to wonder, could black people's circumstances, urban black people living in the hood, could it be better? You know, you often hear them say they don't have the resources, opportunities as their white counterparts. That, in my opinion, it is both true and not so true. You don't even want to know dollar for dollar. The Catholic schools I attended versus the public schools. The public schools had a great deal more money than the Catholic schools. I don't know if I'm really explaining this right, but anyway, gentrification. Hold on. Everybody is still doing their, I guess that song is still popular. There was a black dude going by, blasting some, I don't know, it was some weird song. But it was, anyway, let me get back to my topic. Our thumbnail. Can you believe, I don't know if you clicked onto the YouTube video in the link in the description, but $100,000. Can you even say it with a straight face? $100,000 for living inside that tiny little egg. I mean, it's got the square footage of something like, I don't know, a cargo van. I mean, for Christ's sakes, even a cargo van, a used old cargo van that you can get for, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000. At least you can get behind the wheel of the thing and drive it someplace. But what can I say, man? It's a hustle. It's a gentrification. Maybe I can explain gentrification like this. Have you ever tormented, not physically tortured, but have you kind of taunted, should I say? Maybe taunted is the better word. Like an insect. As an insect tries to crawl one way, you put your hand up to block it. It goes another way, you block it there, and block it, and block it, you know. That's kind of what gentrification is doing to the poor like me. Tiny houses and things like that, and living in trailers, and tiny houses used to be extremely affordable. You could get the things for like, you know, under $10,000. You basically get your trailer for a couple $1,000 and you build on top of it, you know, pretty much what you want. They all pretty much followed a very basic design, a very similar design. When they got popular, they became the playthings of the affluent. Like I say, I try very hard to leave our Jewish oligarchy out of this, because, like I said, I'm not entirely sure. The Jew is the henchman, you know. Hey, at least I used the wizard special effect as the metaphor last time. I mean, I could have just as easily used the Wicked Witch's flying monkeys, you know, as the henchmen of the mysterious entity that keeps so much of the population enshrouded, enslaved, in poverty. But you guys already think all kinds of shit about me, so I didn't want to compare Jewish oligarchy to flying monkeys. And I mean, like I say, the verbiage aside, you know, we're talking about poverty, and we're talking about the shackles of poverty. You know, we're talking about the classes, the confinements, the constructs of poverty. These trailers, like I say, you guys might think I'm crazy for wanting $40,000 for my tiny home trailer. Believe it or not, that's very kind of on the lower end of things. A lot of these tiny homes are like turning into like $100,000, man. It's like, wow, they're not even going that fast. Like, get new tires. They were turning into their parking space and they were screeching like that, and they have bald tires. Anyway, oh, look at that dog. Isn't it beautiful? I don't know if you can see it. Am I aiming the camera right? It's one of the nice things about sitting on this bench. You get to see the puppies coming and going and things like that. But yeah, that's how it is. Also, I wanted to talk about how long can these oligarchies keep this charade up, you know. A good example of this, 3D printers, prosthetics prosthetics for as long as they've been around have been phenomenally expensive. Just talk to anybody that requires them. I know I needed, for a person of my size, I needed a Ritchie Dynamic leg brace, which might have even allowed me to get back to work, but Medicaid, care, whatever the fuck it was, they wouldn't pay for it. Like I say, they'll give you what they think you can get by on. So basically, to use a cycling metaphor, Medicaid wanted to give me a Walmart bike when I need a bike like the Black Rider. So I don't want to get off into whole, you know, what keeps me from work and stuff like that. That's a whole nother thing. But 3D printers, they are definitely taking a hell of a bite out of our medical prosthetic manufacturers. You know, these are things that, you know, you can make yourself, assuming you can afford a 3D printer, and have the know-how. Once again, skill set. Once again, the skill set. It goes back to our skill set. To have the knowledge and the equipment, and then you can do it yourself. This type of technology, it's only going to continue with leaps and bounds. Robots, animation, whether it's an Atlas robot from Boston Dynamics or what other type of robotics companies out there. Building homes are not terribly complex things. You get into things like building codes. See, gosh, I really... How can I communicate everything to you? When you go back to the turn of the century, the late 1800s, 1900s, especially in places like New York, densely populated, you had the buildings, I guess for then, at that time, they may have been called high-rises. A lot of tenement fires, and that engendered a lot of code enforcement. You know, L&I, license and inspecting. A lot of government regulation came from those tenement fires. I try not to get into a lot of conspiracy on my blogging. There are those out there that, what's the saying, Jewish lightning? I really don't know. I don't know about that, but this is what I do know. The end result of these tenement fires resulted in a great deal of regulation. The regulation then took a lot of power and control out of the layman's hand. You just can't simply build yourself a home. You see where I'm going with this thing? You know, now you have to get licensed contractors and this and that, and this is what causes the price to snowball out of control. And of course the government is there every step of the way to get their slice of the pie. Like I say, now that we have our automation, robots, the labor, you know, how long can they keep up this charade for trying to justify how expensive something like a tiny home actually is? Because that egg is ridiculous. I mean, that thing costs pennies to build, and they want $100,000 for it. And yes, there's going to be some new millennial, some trendy, some eco, some idiot that's going to be right there, and we ask ourselves, why do they pay this? Being green has become a source of money. It's like a new type of tender. You know, just like, what was it, somebody, who remembers rare earth? You know, things they build phones like this with, or some shit like that. They want to call it rare earth. Believe in that if you want. But, so it's all about assigning value to either products or services. And why are these things so incredibly expensive? The price of it helps to create classes. Because let's be honest, that egg, it's not new. If you were to dig into archived footage, probably especially during your hippie era, you know, there's all kinds of hippie mobiles and things like that, you know, that people were living in. Once again, mothball technology. This stuff's been around forever. They're just hauling it out the mothball, dusting it off. So we have a lot of our hippie things, food, housing, tools. A lot of hippie things are, you know, transportation, you know, electric cars. A lot of hippie things are being gentrified, and they're being turned into phenomenally expensive things. And the price point on these items and services are so to keep out undesirables. It's being divisive. You know, what was supposed to have been so, you know, saving, it saves the poor. It saves the middle class. It saves everybody so much money. It's actually being hijacked and turned into a divisive tool. If you want to live in our egg, you're going to have to be the right kind of person. Just like now patroning Karen Traw's McDonald's around the corner, you got to be the right kind of person just to get a fucking extra value meal. You know, you got to be the right kind of person. And this type of divisiveness, it's running amok, is what it is. And so that's what gentrification does. It assigns fantastic amounts of money to things that cost absolute pennies, and it's being done to keep out certain types of people. It is done this way under the belief that if you don't have the kind of money that it costs to own an egg home, well then obviously you're not the right kind of person. Obviously you've done a lot of self-sabotaging things in your life to not have the kind of income to afford this. Because in my mind, $100,000 for living inside of a giant egg, that's actually very affordable. Woo! In their mind, in their world, that's affordable. I guess because they come from $500,000 or $1 million homes, you know. So $100,000, I guess to them it is affordable. Again, going back to the concept of wealth and worth. What is it worth to you? How much wealth do you have, you know? So I don't know if I succeeded in explaining gentrification to you. Who's behind gentrification? I do know that our Jewish banking and real estate, they're not stupid. They're very intelligent people. I think they probably know better than me what's coming down the pike. Like I say, how long can they keep up this charade of assigning this value to the homes, to the mortgages that they own, to the mortgages of the banks that they own? How long can they keep this charade up of telling people what their home is worth, how much equity they have, you know, when technology is just simply moving at phenomenal strides, where we can create homes, all different types of homes. There's already reports that the young are putting off marriage. Nobody really seems to want to start a family. Can you blame them? Money is a secure job is no longer a guarantee, and it's being white isn't quite as valuable as it once was, you know. It's still a lot more, you know, economic wise. their opportunities are still a lot more than the urban black person. And yes, I know a lot of white people disagree with that, but anyway, but yeah, so how long can these oligarchies keep up this charade and keep people under thumb? You know, all of us, all the classes, you know, like in our flood and fire and earthquake and superstorm corridors over the country, you know, North American continent, you know, Kansas or Texas and California, the Beltland states, where a lot of these storms and fire and flood and wildfire and all this shit that wipes out hundreds and hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands of acres, destroying, you know, something like $1 billion in home real estate. The point that I'm going is that if people were to continue on this trend of finding alternative ways to live, put it like this, you know, God forbid nothing happens to my my $50 summer home tent, but if it does, just remember, it only costs $50. You know, if people started living in these alternative ways of life, there's a wildfire, your tiny home was destroyed, total control. My tiny home costs what? $10,000. It's a sharp blow, but you know, I'm sure insurance would be much more prone to replacing a $10,000 tiny home than a $500,000 or $1 million home that are being destroyed in these wildfires and floods. And and then I could totally segue right now about the insurance industry. And see, I could segue insurance, the scam. These things, they all generate money. You dig what I'm saying? Even when fire and flood and devastation, it strikes the common man and the not so common man. Anytime you have money moving, you dig? You know, when you have money moving, then you know, money generates money. So, all right, I don't know if I succeeded in getting my point across to you today, but like I say, gentrification, they want to turn the simplest things into the most expensive things, and they do it to keep out certain people, because after all, you gotta be the right kind of buyer. The price keeps getting higher. The banks are run by liars. You gotta be the right kind of liar. Strong baby tender. Total Control 871.